afternoon. I'm Christina Roush, and I would like to welcome you to the November 20th, 2025 Design Review Committee meeting. This is a 9-person committee whose primary function is to perform design review for projects located in one of the city's 3 designated design review areas: downtown, the riverfront, and the hotel overlay zoning districts. This is a mandatory review, voluntary compliance process, with one exception for hotels seeking to skip council review. Hotels taking advantage of this incentive must receive a positive recommendation from the committee. All committee members and staff are participating in person. We are streaming on our virtual engagement hub, which is accessible through the virtual engagement hub link on the front page of the city website, and also linked on the committee page. You can also watch the meeting on the city's YouTube channel, either live or recorded. I will now take roll call. Brian Moffitt.
Here.
Joe Balkin.
Here.
Eddie Dewey.
Here.
Jeremy Goldstein.
Here.
Stu Helm.
Here.
Thomas McLaughlin is absent. Michael McDonough.
Here.
And Ricardo Saba.
Here.
And we do have a quorum today, which is at least 5 members in attendance. And our first order of business is approval of the meeting minutes from the October 16th, 2025 meeting.
I'd like to move to approve those minutes. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion is approved. And our first new business item is a formal design review for 155 Thompson Street. I believe we're getting a presentation from staff.
Good afternoon, members of the board, committee rather, members of the public and city staff. Tyler Kelly, urban planner to the Planning and Urban Design Department. I'm here presenting Big Picture Group, the outdoor music venue located 155 Thompson Street along the Swananoa River corridor. So this project consists of 6 parcels totaling 2.6 acres located at the terminus of Thompson Street, heading in the northeast direction, directly adjacent to the Swananoa River. You can see the parcels outlined here in pink, right there in the end. The site is zoned River District and is located within the Riverfront Design Review area, specifically within the Swananoa River West Design Sector, which is why we're here today. A portion of the site is well within the Swananoa floodway, while the remaining property area is entirely within the 100-year floodplain. So the original structures on this site were completely destroyed during the record rainfall associated with Hurricane Helene. I believe one of the breweries named Cursus Kine. I cannot remember the other one. You can see those sites there. This is the post-Helene imagery. So basically all the structures were completely wiped out. The proposed outdoor music venue will not incorporate any permanent structures due to this level of flood impact property experienced. All components, such as the stage and other vending areas, will be temporary or removable in nature. However, the applicant has provided some renderings that suggest a more permanent stage may be implemented at a future date. Currently, the project has proposed an 82 by 40 foot temporary stage situated in the southeast corner, seating up to 430 individuals positioned stage right, 4 mobile bars, 5 proposed shipping containers for restroom facilities, and several additional shipping containers designated for merchandise sales and box offices. There's a collection of renderings that were submitted just before this meeting that the applicant may share during their presentation. We'll pull those up. So the project currently is under review as a level 1 administrative review. Therefore, there's no public comment officially in the review process other than this meeting here. There is an associated right-of-way closure for this portion of Mulvaney Street, shown in pink. That has moved through the technical review committee. It was approved with administrative revisions required, which basically means that they'll be required to submit revisions, but it won't have to go through another formal technical review committee meeting. After that, it will move to multimodal, which also will allow public comment, and then finally to city council, which will also allow public comment. So the primary entrance gate is shown here along Thompson Street. The secondary access gate positioned in the northeast corner of the proposed section. So here's the secondary. Here's the primary. An existing gravel area behind the stage will be utilized as a vehicular use area for loading and unloading operations. That's shown there behind the stage. I'd like to mention also that this project will result in a recombination for the proposed existing parcels shown. City staff are awaiting a formal access and traffic management plan from the applicant. CDC will be submitting that at some point soon in the future. Moving on with the landscaping and grading aspects, the site plan proposes the installation of 3 soil earth lifts, each in 1 foot increments oriented to the northeast direction. So if you imagine it steps up as it goes away from the stage. The applicant has indicated the provision of 4 street trees along Thompson Street shown here. That's really the only section that's abutting an actual publicly maintained right-of-way. So that's the only place where street trees are required. 3 trees and 17 shrubs for the required building impact landscaping. That was basically determined using the total square footage of the temporary structures and the gatehouse being considered a somewhat semi-permanent structure, with the idea of the future stage being a somewhat permanent structure as well. If they were to incorporate on-site parking, such as ADA parking in that gravel area, there would be additional landscaping required there. And that would be reviewed through revisions, not shown at this time. As for the, here you can see the renderings that were submitted a few weeks ago. There are some updated renderings that are in the Google Drive that the applicant will be sharing during their presentation, as I mentioned. Looking at the design review guidelines, there's not a real permanent structure, so it's really hard to tie in some of those things, but I tried the best I could here. Buildings are painted, should be muted organic colors. I think, they're showing the project consists of shipping containers and other steel and industrial materials. The service loading and garbage collection functions, will be discreetly placed. That is just a typical requirement anyway of the UDO. All sidewalks should be concrete with simple score patterns. They are showing proposed sidewalks that meet city standards that then flow along Thompson Street and then meander throughout the site. Partially aligned with the Swananoa River West overview, areas characterized by a mixture of existing operating light industrial uses, retail, warehousing. So this obviously would be an outdoor music venue, meeting, somewhat those guidelines. So the distinctive character, again, honoring the older and longer standing architectural traditions of the riverfront area. We'll see the renderings that the applicant has presented, but the staff comment there is the proposed buildings has features and characteristics similar to that of the existing industrial and warehouses located in the approximate area. Staff supports the proposed outdoor music venue as a low-impact use on a collection of parcels severely impacted by Hurricane Helene. The use allows for the revitalization of an impacted area within the floodway and floodplain. Staff recommendation does not reflect approval of any formal access and traffic impact analysis, as this is yet to be submitted. Again, the level 1 still under review. We will be receiving the traffic impact analysis, or rather the access plan. And so it's still under review. The right-of-way is also still under review, subject to council approval. That's all I have at this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
I got a question before he goes. He's got a lot more questions. Parking. What are the parking requirements for something that brings in 425 people to be seated, plus I don't know how many unseated?
So for this type of use in the River District, under the newly proposed parking requirements, 0.
So where's everybody going to park?
There's no requirement to show the parking, and like I said, the applicant is going to submit a parking and access plan at a later date. We haven't seen anything like that yet. I'll let the applicant speak a little bit more to it, but there's quite a number of surface lots in the area that I believe that they will utilize.
So they're not required to have a pedestrian way or anything like that from those parking areas that they're.
They most likely will. We just don't know the location of that, but yes, they will have to have,
Okay.
non-slip, standard ADA surface to get in and out of the venue.
So I'm trying to understand, the application says that the structures are going to be either temporary or removable, correct?
Correct.
Yet I'm seeing things like bars and bathrooms that are going to have plumbing and so on connections. How does the city decide when something's removable / temporary? Because these, I mean, what's the?
So I'm maybe not the best person for that question, just as a zoning aspect. The way we define the structures, they are temporary. Maybe a better question for building safety or the architect.
Well, it feels like a get out of jail free card if I just, hey, my building's temporary, it's removable.
I also thought when we were reviewing the skating, the city said, even if it was temporary, the landscaping was viewed as permanent, right?
It's temporary use, the landscapes are used permanently. It's just, I'm struggling to understand like how we don't apply a full review to like the buildings. I don't know. I'm trying to understand like when is something removable?
Yeah, I mean,
is this like the old
structures are temporary.
Bus, they make it, crank it up and like move it 6 inches once a year kind of thing?
We have yet to. The only thing that we've seen are what you see in the application.
Okay.
Just the renderings. If there are obviously any occupiable structures, even temporary in nature, they are subject to North Carolina Building Code.
Exactly, including flood protection, correct?
Correct.
So even a temporary building would need to be required to meet the flood hazard requirements for base flood elevation, yada, yada, yada.
I believe so, but I think with the temporary nature that they would be removed if there was ever a flood warning. Again, I'm not the expert on that. I'm not the flood management staff member. That would probably be best answered by Nancy Watford.
Are there any comments on the level one letter yet to that at all, Tyler?
No, I
Okay.
do not think so. The stormwater grading and erosion review window is a little longer than the zoning window, so I haven't seen any of those comments quite
Yep,
yet.
those will be forthcoming.
Yes.
You mind if I ask a quick question? Just so I can reconcile what you're saying with what I'm seeing in the documents. On the plan, there's like, I don't know, beige, colored beige structures. When I look at the site legend, those are indicated as proposed permanent structure. But you're saying that those would start out as mobile, and then at a later time, they would be permanent structures?
That's my understanding, yes. The stage will start for sure as temporary, and I believe that they're developing plans for a permanent structure there.
Okay. And so all the red structures on the site plan are indicated as proposed movable site feature, and then these beige structures are also proposed movable site features.
Yes, I believe the smaller beige is, and then maybe the applicant, Robert Todd, or someone from CDC can comment further on that, but I believe it will serve as some sort of like ticket booth or gatehouse.
But what they look like, at least to my eye right now, is permanent structures in all the renderings and plans. So
They have permanent locations, but yeah, again, we haven't seen any elevations, architectural drawings. The only thing we've seen are renderings at this time. We're simply reviewing.
How do we do design review if we don't have drawings to review?
is that something that we would do once those plans are in, those designs are in?
That'd be an amendment.
In a later meeting?
Amendment to this.
I think that's totally up to you guys if you wanted to move that direction. What triggered this formal review is just simply the fact that it's a level one within the design review overlay.
Yeah, I guess where I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, okay, these are still occupiable buildings and they're calling them removable, but unless it's got wheels on it, it just doesn't seem, it's not like a food truck. Could be, but what they're showing right now, shipping containers, and you just don't get up in the morning and go and pick up to it and go off the site when the water starts to rise. So, so it's got to be building code. If it's an occupiable, habitable building, it's got to provide some measure of flood, up to the regulatory flood elevation. Whatever that is, that means the building's either going to be elevated or it's going to have gates or something around it. So, I don't know what I'm reviewing. Am I reviewing what's actually going to be there, or this is kind of...
Well, these are the additional renderings that we received today, so staff haven't had time to make any comments
I got you.
on these. Again, I'll just reiterate that we're seeing the same thing, and we have similar questions.
Okay.
I'm just here presenting what we have so far.
All right. Okay.
I'll say probably something that a lot of us here having gone through building, have burned into our memories is shipping containers like that wrapped around a column of a bridge down near Amboy. So the fact that they are movable is awesome. But practically, what is the evacuation plan? What is the route? Is it practically doable? Is something that I'd be interested in understanding.
So they will have to submit the flood action plan. Again, haven't seen anything yet.
Okay.
But similar to salvage station, flood action plan, things happen quickly, obviously. That all ended up in French Broad.
And,
So.
the action plan may not be within our purview, but from a site perspective.
Yeah, I guess I'm, so are they, or are you, what are we reviewing today? Just the use? Or?
The use and the very loose guidelines of the
I mean, this is design review, so I don't really see that we need to review the use, but we'd like
Yeah.
to review a design that's actually going to be there, but if everything's still coming, then how do we have a formal review?
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I think,
Sorry.
review of the site, the layout and the context is appropriate, and as much review of the buildings as proposed as possible. And up to you all whether you are able to make a full recommendation or, a little bit of discretion there about if you need more information on some of these buildings. We did get some more today, so that might help kind of fill in the blanks of what these containers look like. But no, that hasn't given me a lot of time to review ahead of time.
Might be helpful to talk with the applicant at this time.
Agreed.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Let me know if you need me back up here.
Okay.
Good afternoon, committee, members of the public, city staff. Robert Todd, Red House Architecture, a part of the design team. I've got Chris Day with CDC, Rhea Jackson here with Red House, and I've got members of the Big Picture group here that are able to speak as well. Tyler, great job following those questions about flood. I know that's not your expertise, so I'm happy to talk about that. I do think that there is some clarifications about what we're trying to achieve here with this design review and with this project. Do I have control of these slides?
Yeah, you can scroll up and down on the touchpad there.
Tabbing, they're just not as well here. I'll give a quick run through and then I'll drill down. How's that? So here's some site context photos. So in the upper right, this was Wright trucking line back in the day for a number of decades. And then Brewery Cursus was able to buy the property. It was in the flood, decent amount of acreage, very inexpensive relative. And Jeff Horner and his wife began Brewery Cursus. Blood, sweat, and tears. They bootstrapped that. If you ever went up, it was a lovely spot. It was essentially a junkyard, and then through their efforts, they changed it with plantings and gardens and made it a very welcoming space. And they were devastated when Helene came. I think Jeff moved some things out of the way, but it was hard for folks to, if you haven't been through it before, it was hard for them to understand exactly what was about to happen. So those are some photos of the existing site there, just everything's scraped. So the Swannanoa makes a bend there, and so it likes to go straight in some of these flood events. 2004, there might have been about 3 or 4 feet in his building, and then Helene took the building out. So one of the things that I'm just kind of showing this for context, we've got on the bottom right there some of the remainders of what his building was. There's a hand-painted beam from his building and some of the engine blocks from Wright trucking line, and then one of his brewing tanks. There it is in the space as he was getting ready to install it back in the day. So I was the architect on Brewery Cursus, worked in the flood regulations there. Jeff was a client who became a friend, and then just became completely devastated after Helene. So I think what we're seeing this as is we've got a fully scraped site. We've got the greenway that's planned to come through there. This is activation of a devastated area. It's going to be able to bring life back to this end of Thompson Street and Swannanoa River. So that said, we do have challenges, and the challenge primarily from a design standpoint is flood. So here is our aerial rendering. I think this was in the package you got. So because we are aware of what the river does in major events there, we are designing for durability, and we're designing for resiliency, and we're designing for moving these assets off-site. So if we get something less than an '04 flood, we may move some things, but we may not move all things. But if we get a lean size flood, then I think we're going to be moving those assets to safety. And so with the city, what they've done with the FAST team in the river is they are trying to find ways for business owners and our community to come back to life as quickly as they can. Still staying within FEMA regulations and building code, but try to come back to life as quickly as you can. The way they're able to do that is to say, for the first year, year one, you can be a temporary use. A temporary use is a provision in the FEMA guidelines and the city zoning guidelines that lets them be able to be flexible, actually is the easiest way to say it, and come back to life and not have to meet all of the regulations. The building code doesn't really recognize temporary. They recognize a tenant as temporary, but everything else is permanent. And so those are two different regulations that are coming together, and we have to address both of them. So from a building standpoint, unless we are a tagged and trailered structure, then we're going to be considered permanent to the building code. Does that make sense? And then, so from a FEMA standpoint, if we are tagged and trailered, then we move that asset off-site. It can be in the floodway, but it has to move each night. It can be
Hazard area.
again, flood hazard area. That's right. So
So not floodway.
well, the floodway is a designation.
Yeah, we want to stay out of the floodway with keep going.
But I did want to mention that like a food trailer can be in the floodway zone, but it has to be gone at night. So it's there during the day, and then it's gone. And so over on the left side of the rendering, you will see things that have tires on them, tagged and trailered objects. And so those are against the river, and they can be removed each night. So the containers are going to be, they need to address FEMA, which is dry flood proofing or wet flood proofing. So for the first year, they are temporary, and so we don't have to meet FEMA regulations because they are temporary to FEMA for their designation. But we are using shipping containers because they are, for the most part, watertight. They've got some vents at the top there which we'll modify. But those are going to be designed to be anchored on a foundation. What we saw with containers ending up at McDonald's or wrapped around the big power poles, those were either not anchored at all or they were not anchored to the standard that they would need to be anchored to. And so these will be, basically our strategy is let's go ahead and anchor these year one. Most everyone we're trying to anchor for year one, even though they're going to be technically temporary to FEMA. And then we will take some time to make them dry flood proofed over that year, get them for business, and then make them dry flood proof. But the anchoring, which is disruptive to the soil and the surfaces, it's basically concrete in the ground. Let's go ahead and do that year one. So the shipping container is a durable vessel. And so we have it designed in a way that it can be moved. I know Brian mentioned about you don't just come and hook those up. It does take some coordination. That's going to be a part of our emergency action plan. It's like exactly how all that happens. But they are streamlined from a design standpoint because we want to have them be able to go down the road. And so that's just a recognition of where we are, where we're placing this and how we're designing. So it's a design response to our context. And then the stage, year one is a mobile stage. If you go to downtown after 5, that's a stage line 320 or something similar. That's what we're talking about for year one. But for year 2, let's go ahead and make that permanent. And so it will meet all of the requirements for flood anchoring. It is designed to be a flow-through design. So it has a solid rear wall which to FEMA, they allow you to have one rear wall and the rest is flow-through. And so you don't have to meet the elevating requirements.
What's the RFP here? The regulatory flood elevation.
Let me show that to you here.
I apologize for interrupting. I'm getting this in my head.
No, this is good. There's probably a faster way for me to get this done. This is working. Okay, look over there on the right. We've got the 2 feet above BFE, so base flood elevation. That's what we've all learned a lot about. And so we have to be 2 feet above that base flood elevation for city standard. So that you'll see that that's about 4 feet above our stage 4. And so any electrical, permanent electrical services will be raised at a minimum 2 feet above the BFE. We're going to be going higher than that because we know what can happen down there.
So this is at 85 occupancy, so it can be a flow through with the habitable, that
Yes.
similar occupancy. Okay.
Yes, and so the
And this is what we're seeing on screen is your year 2.
This is year 2. That's right. And so again, it's a solid wall in the back, and then everything else is well above the BFE. And then this is a steel structure, concrete slab, metal siding, metal roof. So all the
What about for the, you said you're going to do a wet flood proofing for the, like the box office and the bar. What's the regulatory flood elevation, the BFE for those?
So these will be
the same?
Yeah, the same BFE generally. It's down.
Plus or minus 6 inches?
Yeah, as you move downriver, it changes slightly. But for dry or wet flood proofing, you are not elevating it. If that concept makes sense. So you are basically hunkering down, if you will.
Flood panels on it.
Yeah, so you would do, so this storage container here on the right, that's considered, storage is low value storage, and so it automatically can be wet flood proofed. Wet flood proof means you have engineered flood vents, water comes in, it inundates whatever's in there, and then it flows out without, in theory, without damaging the structure.
I'm reading roughly 8 feet of water from the ground plane to the BFE on the stage. Am I reading that right?
Yeah, let's
2010 to 202. Yeah. And so it's pretty much the whole unit gets.
Yeah, we're around, the way that when the site is sloping from the north to the south, we're adding some fill on the north. So every container will have a slightly different BFE and elevation to it. But in general on the site, the stage is the lowest part of the site. So where a number of the containers go, say the entrance, that's a 2003 elevation, more or less. And then the 2 feet above is 10.9. So you're really looking at a 7. You're almost to the ceiling of those containers for 2 feet above BFE. And that's for the 1% chance per year. That's what that BFE is based on.
Do you mind relating that to the 04 flood? Like, those are all numbers.
And this is a guess. I can talk to Jeff to get a better idea. But and Chris's CDC offices were across the river there in 04. But we think it was about a 4-foot inundation out of his building. And his building was at 2003 level. Does that make sense? So that would put his inundation somewhere around 2007. So they're on a little bit of a high ground there, strangely. The Thompson Street and Glendale will flood, but where Jeff is, he would stay a little, there's just a slight rise there. Kind of like
2010 is above the 2004.
That's what we think. We'll confirm that, but that's what we think, is we've got a few extra feet in there from the 04.
It wasn't a village. Because they changed the maps in 10.
Yeah.
10 is when they changed the maps, and the 04 flood was below the current map at the time.
Yeah, my wife had a shop at First Watch, where First Watch is. Maybe again. And the city said that in '04 that we would get about 17 inches for that. That was the emergency notification 24 hours ahead, and we got, I think, 40 from 42 or 48 in that shop there. So you would think restrooms would be low value, but they're not. They are required to be dry flood proofed. And so for the restrooms, I'm going to go back to the aerial here. The restrooms are, we've got two 40-foot containers that will be modified if you've ever used the restrooms in the meadow at Highland or on the rooftop of Highland. Those are modified container restrooms. So a similar concept. Where those two are in the back, the two blue ones by the rear entry, the level of those will be about 4 feet higher than the current grade because we're going to be raising things up, and then we're going to put those on a trailer frame. So because they're 40 feet, they're harder to move by calling the flatbed wrecker, and so we'll be able to disconnect and tow those out of there. They're also, the way they're positioned is the river's going to come right for them if we get a lean event. Of the other containers and the layout, we've tried to position things for going with the flow at the narrow end of the container towards the.
But they will be flood proofed. You still.
They will have to be flood proofed.
You still have to have flood panels for the doors and such.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, but for our purposes today, what we're seeing in the additional picture is pretty much what you think you're going to provide in terms of the number of openings, the colors, the layout, the placement. There's not going to have to be major modifications to these in order to do dry flood proofing, and this is all kind of year two stuff that is part of the. Is this part of the formal proposal for today, or?
That's one of the things that we've been talking about. I think, I guess, gauging the will of the committee is there isn't much that's going to change when they go permanent.
Right.
So our preference is if we could get your comments and ideally your approval on these as permanent, that would be helpful, I guess, to the cause because we want to make sure everybody's clear in understanding what we're doing. But the foundation ideally is already in place year one, and you don't see the foundation. They're not raised up except for, as I mentioned, the restroom containers in the back. And so, the flood panels that make openings more flood-proof are not permanently on there. They would be attached as needed.
Is this voluntary compliance?
It is voluntary compliance.
Okay.
Correct.
I'll go through because
Before you pass that slide, can you talk about the gateway, the entry feature?
Yes.
It looks kind of conceptual.
yes, and I've got some images in the back. And I think the way that we are treating that is, I think it's may become more of a seasonal feature that might could change. And I'm not going to say that it's a sign, or I'm not going to say it's made of canvas and metal or something like that. But I think if you go to a festival and there's an entrance to a festival, the next year it might change slightly. And so I think that one is a little less permanent year to year. Does that make sense? It is a recognition of you're entering the site. There will be covered security tents back behind there where you run through the scanners and things like that. And you've got shipping containers on either side, but I think the way we're treating that gate is maybe aspirational as it is now, and we'll just kind of see how things go. And I think it wants the ability to evolve. But I've got some images, Michael, that I'll show you in the back of where we're headed on it. Anything else on this image while here? Here's a view. We've got shade sails that you see on the plan. This is just kind of shows you what it feels like with the crowd and musicians. You get a sense a little bit of how we've raised up on the north side and we're sloping down as you would for an amphitheater. It's not an amphitheater, but it's not flat. So we're just gently sloping down. So you're basically looking at the sunset or west. I always want to call this west, but I guess it's technically Project South here.
Robert, all these images show up with trees. One of the first images, the engineering drawings only show the required development required. These show extras that are not shown in any of the plans, but they're shown in the renderings. Can you talk about how that works?
Yes, we've got this tree on the left side that's peeking in is an existing tree that we are hoping to maintain there. We've got trees behind us here in this view, behind us here along the river. Those are a mix of when the greenway comes and that becomes city property, some are on city property, some are on this property. But one of the goals of Big Picture is to make this a green space, and so you're challenged in the performance venue on the ground. Grass doesn't hold up where it gets walked on all the time, but there are certain areas where you can do grass, and so we will be relying on planting additional trees not required, shrubs and trees that are not required by city regulations. So that's what you're seeing here is a more mature look of the venue. Not year one probably, but
So what are those materials then? What's the grade? What are the paving materials? What are you proposing?
I'll let Chris answer to some degree, but I think we're looking from a mulch standpoint and potentially a granite fines in the grade. Is that accurate, Chris?
Yes. Fixed, honestly. Okay.
Can you,
Good luck.
And there is concrete where it needs to be, but there is a provision, the ADA has accepted a type of modified granite fines that is considered a fixed and non-slip.
Yeah, if it's in a grass paved, gravel paved product.
Containment cups, if you will.
is there a landscape architect involved?
Just CDC. There is not a landscape architect involved.
Well, I mean, hopefully you will plant trees, but it seems like they ought to be shown, other than the few end of Thompson Street, and I think there was more. Will you include more than aspirational planting plans for trees in a permanent drawing?
In a permanent drawing, I don't know that we would, because if it's in a permanent drawing, then it has to be in that exact location, or the drawing has to be modified, is what I think I would say the approach is. But there's not a city requirement requiring us to show those additional plants and plantings, but it's where we're headed. Does that make sense?
Well, it does. I mean, you talked about it being, what was your word, green or forest or something, but not the question here technically,
Yeah.
but anyone can say that until it's in the documents. We don't know if any trees will end up in this project, other ones you have to plant. So.
Yes, that is true and a part of the process for sure. But that said, is I think I think that listening to music in a parking lot is not the vibe that we want to have for this. We were next to the river. We've got existing mature trees that are on site, and we'll augment those with additional trees that are not required by the city. We're likely not showing them on a permit drawing just for the fact that if you show them, then you move them or change them, then that could create some confusion about resubmitting those. Any other questions on this one?
I think we can talk to the side if we have other questions. Carly, you're being very quiet. Yeah, let's do side.
These are pretty simple. I'm just going to finish this one real
Well, one question on these. So you've got some pretty significant kind of canopy overhangs on the bar elements, and in one of your kind of examples, it's in my head somewhere. No, I saw it.
Those are just side panels that, you know.
I was going to say, this rendering is an earlier rendering that has the larger, like side panels, like Michael mentioned. I think we have scaled those back. That's probably the worst case scenario, I would say. You can kind of, I can do.
Yeah,
I see that on the left side here.
So there was a document that was like called the DRC narrative that we got, and it had some examples, and it had a full roof sitting on like a couple wood columns with a beam that was then kind of built onto it, and there's just no way that's movable. So I mean, you know, whether or not you move these structures, from our perspective, is not really, you know, part of our purview. I just want to make sure I'm reviewing what you're actually going to put in. So if you're going to make them permanent with a great big canopy, I'd like to know what the details are, what that looks like. So if I just understood what you just said, those are going to be scaled back from that rendering?
Yes, that is the intent. They would be scaled back, but I will mention the way what we showed in the narrative is a separate, from a FEMA perspective, right? That is a four posted structure that has no enclosed sides, and so it doesn't have to move offsite. That would be
This guy right here?
yes. That would be the roof is out of the BF to 2 feet above BFE. It would not be structurally attached to the container.
Okay, this one is, but yours would not be.
Yes, if we go that route, then that would be an independent piece, anchored adequately, the posts are adequate to resist the required
Hydrostatic
flood impact, all that kind of stuff. And then you extract the movable asset out of there.
Good luck. Okay.
Yeah, it's been
Forklift certified.
held up well against the river.
Yeah, it's like, does the big, mentioned the big picture, you want to just have on the wall, to move this right. But I think as we are looking at what it takes to make these flood-proof, that's where we may scale back from time to time on the canopies. But I think it's worthy to talk about those in case they do occur.
Before you leave, Robert, Art, do you want to keep scrolling through? Okay. Go back up to the aerial looking east, one more, I think. Yeah. Can you talk about, so to the left is Thompson Street that you plan to take over, contain ownership of?
Thompson Street is closed. It was closed. This portion of Thompson Street was closed when Brewery versus was active.
Okay. But it's, you know, it's early, it's an existing street and parking issues, maybe a lot of cars dropping people off on Thompson Street or lining Thompson Street or people walking on Thompson Street. So you should scroll up just a hair just so you can see the bottom of that image. Okay, so I'm guessing that's like a security utility gate there blocking off Thompson Street?
It is. So with Brewery versus, it was a chain link fence that you would close after hours. So that's a similar fence, it's a movable fence, but that would be for emergency vehicle access there. And at the end of the show, that's a staff gate. The movable fence moves out of the way and have.
And they can use Mulvaney Street as well?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so you have two.
The building code will require us to have 4 egress points, so we'll have 2 ingress points, 2 ticketed points, and then we'll have 4 exits.
I'm a big Terminator Vista guy, so I'm picturing walking towards this venue on Thompson Street, I'm seeing a chain link fence as where I'm being drawn to. And I know I'm going to be pulled over to the right to some sort of gate, which I may not be able to see depending on how how far the structures are approaching on Thompson Street. I wish you could welcome folks. I'm very supportive of activity here, and there's a lot of stuff you guys have to overcome. So my comments are more about how can we make this better within all of the restraints you're gonna have to work around. And so one of them is putting in the trees you want to put in, but committing to them. And if you have to deal with permitting issues because you want to move them, fine, but show them so we know that we're getting trees and we know that we're reviewing and approving a project that is more along the lines of whatever we're hoping it will be. And the other thing is this, like, in these kinds of venues, I sometimes feel like cattle, you know, you're being steered towards an entrance point, and I see elements of that here where it's more about, you know, cattle yard. And so I'm trying to think of ways that we can make this more comfortable for people. And one of those would be the sense of arrival. Like as you're walking down Thompson Street, you know, where are you walking towards other than the security gate? So I know that there's probably good reasons why that peach-colored entrance feature is not on Thompson Street, but if there's a way for you to kind of recognize people coming down Thompson Street and like, glad you're coming here, and here's where all the action is, and so my comments are more about that.
I think that's a point well taken, and I appreciate your Vista comment as well. I think right now that this fence object is shown with the black and rendered in black, but that is, you're also, we call it a scrim or a mesh, and so when you have a show, that scrim is up there, that scrim could be that could be an image scrim, much like you might see around a job site or down in Biltmore Village, where you see covered up buildings that are no longer there or that are damaged and haven't been removed. And so I think that's an opportunity for artwork that could happen there. The reason that the covered entryway is not there is for emergency access vehicles. So that Thompson Street's the concrete street there, and so it's the natural place to bring those emergency vehicles in and out. The other thing that I will say there is from a Vista standpoint is as you do come down Thompson Street, there is the old metal company that was there, I don't know what it was, but there was the big metal shop there, and after that the view opens up, and so you're not coming down a tunnel per se, the view's going to open up and you'll see that main entry gate. But we are looking for every opportunity to bring artwork into the mix, and I'll give you a little bit of flavor of that. So I slowly scroll. So here's some of our elements there, but Gus Cuddy has done work for the Orangeville local amazing muralist and artist in town. And so we would be looking to deploy his creative skill set on both the containers, and I think that's a great opportunity there for key parts of that scrim. In the upper right there, that's the downtown Actor 5, essentially, stage there. And then this is some of that imagery that I was talking about, two examples of that main entry gate. And you can just kind of get a sense of what we were talking about there. But I think the containers, again, they have to be durable. There's only so much you can do, but if you look at High Wire, Rad, those were mural containers. We came forward as committee for those, and I think that activation down there at High Wire, Rad turned out well. So I think those are similar concepts that we're trying to do there. We've got some aspirational, talking about green. We've got a little bit of aspirational planted roof there on one of the containers, and not sure exactly if that can go down the road, but we're not having to go down to the highway. We're just going to go to a spot that gets that flow.
What about lighting? I imagine you'll have some tall light poles with some probably somewhat
Yeah, so
utilitarian and maybe even brutal lighting.
yeah, what we talked with Duke, and if anybody has connections with Duke, I'd love to talk to someone higher up the chain, but there had been discussion that Duke had dimmed the street lights at UNCA's observatory at certain times. And so, because we're bounded by streets on each side, we were hoping that we could get some Duke site lighting that we could control and dim down during the show, right? And so we're aspirational here. But we've talked with them. We've gotten a number of another engineer that they were like, float that one up to the next level. But we had understood that for UNCA, they would do that for the observatory. Barring that, we're probably going to be looking at putting in our own poles and LED lights, and those will be all night sky compliant.
And is there, again, just to steer you towards a softer approach, rather than tall stadium kind of structures where you're like washing the whole venue in, you know, whatever lumens, that maybe you can lower the lighting levels and you don't need to light like any, like 12 foot above the venue grade would be fine. Everything above that doesn't need to be lit, so maybe there's a way to bring your lighting down.
That is a component of the, or encouraged in the design regulations for the river. We've talked about uplighting would be a method for landscaping and things, but we have concern because we're in the flood of that being just completely destroyed or getting tangled up as it goes downriver. And so we are, while we would like to, I think we're going to focus our efforts on pole lighting. It doesn't have to, it doesn't have to be that tall. It's not like stadium lights, but we have to be able to control it so that during the show we have it dimmed down. But we require 1 foot candle across the whole site. That's a very minimal amount of illumination. And then it's like if you've been to the bar at closing time, you want the big lights to come on and say, you gotta go home. And so those will come on as kind of pushing the crowd out. But on the day-to-day, you're really only illuminating what you need to move around the venue and for a show that's going to be, Now we will have...
So right now the lighting's not part of the document.
That's correct. That we've not have, there's not a lighting document here. Things like the stream lights and the cafe lights, we will be employing those around the structures like bars and merch and things like that. Any other questions for me at this time?
I think we're ready to CDC.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have a 5th grader who is currently performing Peter Pan. She's Peter Pan at Claxton. So I'm going to excuse myself, but I've got Chris and Dre to answer anything else architecturally. And I appreciate all of the questions and comments.
Oh, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Sounds like a fun show.
Good afternoon. I don't have a whole lot more to add, but just wanted to add some clarifying items from all the conversation that went on. Thank you for the comments and engagement there. Big picture, flood. So we started with flood on this conversation. I've met with Nancy in flood. I mean, multiple times. We had a FAST meeting. We had an early assistance meeting over and over. And so while in the documents and in the narrative, we talk about the fact that, yes, there is an ability for these assets to be preserved by moving them, the city has to permit these like they'll never move. And so the city has to, an emergency action plan, it's a great idea, but it still has to, the site and the features on the site still have to comply. So that's where, when we use the term modular, that was the word I chose to reference that these were shipping containers that were coming in. Robert, Andrea, and Red House, they're looking at everything he spoke of in terms of meeting flood requirements. We're not skirting or getting out of any of those. So we are identifying that some of them that may only have storage, maybe a designation of a wet flow proofing floodproofing versus dry floodproofing, but there's not an ability to raise these items out. As you saw on the diagram, pretty much the base flood elevation is 8 to 10 feet up. For a good reference point, I've worked on those housing units that are a street over. Those are all sitting up 10 feet in the air with the units up so that the floodwaters flow underneath them. The right-of-way. We talked about Thompson Street right-of-way. We talked about where the right-of-way currently stops. Mulvaney, we do have, Tyler, thank you very much, he made reference, we do have an active request to close Mulvaney. The project isn't dependent on the closure of Mulvaney, it just makes it a little easier and gives us some elbow room, and it removes some of the complexities of state ALE rules and things like that. So the project, as you see there, all of the programming is off of Mulvaney. We're not on Mulvaney, but it is something that we're actively in the process of. Michael, the plans do only show the minimum landscaping required. I recognize the balance between what we want to build out there and what, especially you guys are a unique body that reviews things. You're really looking at how things are aesthetically, whereas most of the other permits and everything that we're going to get, we're showing the minimum required with the idea that we're going to put more out there. As it relates to that, I would turn around and say that there is more trees out there. There's the tree canopy protection ordinance. We're working actively with Sprinkle Creek, local contractor based there in the river. Also has done work all across our river in terms of the materials. The materials are a mixture of concrete walkways that we're trying to minimize, but make sure that we have ADA compliance throughout. Utilize the existing foundations that are out there so that we can use some of that for ADA seating, a mixture of some areas that may be heavier traffic of some artificial turf, followed by grass and mulch. And then those areas of gray, Robert referenced them, they're like a number 8 kind of granite fine, small area. Brian, I'm trying to get away from using, while gravel paved is an acceptable ADA use, I'm trying to get away from that because I'm trying to put concrete sidewalks where we need ADA and then use the gravel fines elsewhere. The gravel paved is accepted by the ADA, but it just isn't more of a maintenance. And when we do have floodwaters come through, it's just something that would be more of a mess to try to clean up.
What are the stormwater requirements, and is there anything that you're doing landscaping wise in terms of like filtering, or there's gonna be a lot of people on this site and a lot of I don't know, trash or things that can go into the river? Like, what are your...
So we've got a couple of things there. As it relates overall to stormwater, we're reducing the amount of impervious surfaces that are out there so that we're creating more opportunities for pervious surfaces and allowing water to infiltrate back down. At the same time, we have the existing riparian stream bank, and that we're adding more vegetation on there to enhance that. Ultimately, during events, when there are people out there, people creating more trash, we will have security, like temporary fencing and security fencing in there that will contain both the people and the trash and debris that get left behind. But as Robert made reference, the idea here is that this is an event. When an event is not going on, in the future, the greenway comes right through here. It creates open parkland area for people to utilize this passive space and activate it.
I think my comment to that is, I think it would be worth exploring more innovative ways of managing that stormwater than a fence or...
Yeah, and when I say, I was thinking more of like trash and debris of stuff like kind of floating off, like blowing away
encourage exploring that.
Great, thank you for the recommendation. On the visual that Robert had left up here, he made use of the term seasonal on that signage, and that's something that I've kind of pushed for as well. The reality is that is actually where the MSD sewer line goes through. So we're not looking to build a permanent structure that goes over that, because I need to be able to allow MSD to bring that track over through there. So it would be something that's more of a seasonal type entryway. Parking and traffic.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know if I have a good visual here. High level, we have, with this being an event, the event permit, we have lots of areas in the vicinity for temporary event parking. The goal, and we have met with the DOT, we've met with city transportation, we've met with the fire marshal, emergency services. So we're working through all those logistics, and we have a plan that we're working through with the level 1 technical staff, because that's been the biggest question at this point as it relates to the technical side of things. And that includes areas on, this would be the east side of the river, areas on, there's a lot of, unfortunately, the storm left us with a lot of usable land out there for temporary event parking. For pedestrians, we have identified Mulvaney as rideshare. 35 to 40% of the traffic that comes to one of these events utilizes drop-off and rideshare. And then the client is working with local, we have a lot of surface parking lot in large retail shopping centers in the immediate area. And Thompson Street would be utilized for a shuttle drop-off. Furthermore, just as the Orange Peel has done at Vincent Highland and Vincent Memorial Stadium, they utilize off-duty actual police department to come in and assist with traffic control. While we're not, these are portions of Thompson Street and Mulvaney are public roads, as well as Glendale, going past the back door to Target and up into Oakley. That plan is to have off-duty uniformed police officers who are out there with local traffic only to really deter and prevent folks from going and impacting those roads with parking and things like that. We've identified with temporary event parking that we have up to 1,000 parking spaces within a half mile there, whether it be on our side of the river, each side of Glendale, as well as Britton-Tilson, the old Britton-Tilson area across. But utilizing for event scenarios, having police officers and people manned at those is how that will be managed as well, very similar to how they've done in other scenarios. Memorial Stadium and concerts up there are very similar in terms of preventing patrons from impacting those residential neighborhoods that are right there. I think that's the primary items that I had made note of. What other?
You talk about the greenway that's shown on the plans, just how whatever's in the works there and how you're going to stitch into it.
Yeah, so our intention, the greenway and city staff is probably a little more qualified for this conversation, but our conversations with city transportation and Lucy was the fact that they had actually started on the greenway like 2 weeks before the storm hit. We've been working with their designer as to any modifications that are being made. One of the requirements of our project is that we're not blocking or preventing the greenway. It's our intention for that to stay open. And then our temporary fencing kind of lives just inside of that for a controlled event. The greenway actually works really well with this project so that day to day when there's not an event, it's kind of creates a park space adjacent to the greenway. When the greenway gets built, it's just another multimodal way for us to get patrons to the project.
Is there any consideration on partnering, moving that project ahead? Because it seems like it would benefit this project to have a nicer pedestrian route to get to this venue.
It's a good question. Right now, as we've been, our conversations with the city, they're trying to figure out where that lives in terms of, like it had already gotten funded and was moving forward. I don't know that it's been fully decided upon where it is today, but they definitely will benefit each other. So I would defer to staff to understand where the timing and scope of that currently is.
And one thought, your plans call for a contractor fence being around the perimeter. What does that mean?
Well, I'm not sure what we meant by that term, but what is intended for the site is that out there around that greenway, putting sleeves into the ground, that area is in the floodway. And so what we've talked about with city staff, as you can say, and as you can see, as Robert made reference, these are food trucks and tagged and trailer type vehicles that are easily removable. What we would look to do is have temporary fencing out there. I think that's what they meant by, or my office meant by contractor fencing, but temporary fencing for event management. But that is, we're in the floodway there, and so it would not be a permanent, barrier. We're looking to put sleeves on our side of the greenway, on our property, so that we can manage events. But when that event, just like the food trucks will be removed after an event, the event management fencing, the contractor fencing would also be, it's a temporary fencing along that portion of the site.
So when during the daytime, there would not be a fence around the perimeter of this venue?
Correct. There are, what we're looking at, half of the vast majority of a lot of the site, and Tyler made reference to that, is in the floodway, and so we're not looking to put a permanent fence. The city's greenway plans call for a split rail fence along the greenway. I don't know if that's still going to be in the plans as they move forward.
So every time there's an event, somebody's going to roll out?
It's a pain, yeah. So we talked about sleeves where the fence could start for an event. It could be out at the end, and then it could move in for when season is over, and there'll be a portion of the year when there may be a smaller portion of the site that is secured. But yeah, the outside, the perimeter of the site is intended to be open, and it really needs to be because of the flood requirements.
So does that mean, Chris, that when there's not an event, and assuming that the greenway does go right past there, that it would be open to the public?
That is the conversations that we've had, yes. So there'll be, as you
Open
can see
to the
here.
public is, if it's private property, it's private property.
But there's no barrier.
But we're not looking for a barrier there. It's that area, as you see, at least on this rendering, it's showing the picnic tables out there. So the idea would be that it basically kind of becomes an open, passive space that is that's usable there along the greenway. Besides events out here, we see that this space could work well for farmers markets and other small events as such.
Chris, do you have a map of the floodway and how much it comes onto the site?
How do I?
Is there a folder for additional drawings? Is it in there?
Go to the.
Thought I had a folder up for you. You have to go back to the DRC page.
Chris, I saw it. Or I see
Yeah,
it.
open the documents up. There you go.
There were Chris's
The real pretty civil. This shows it really well. This you can see there's the pad for curses there, and this dark bold line that you see here is the floodway. So that's why if you, strategically, if you look at the site plan, everything that's located on the outside of that is all tagged and trailered. Everything on the inside is these shipping containers that would meet requirements for building code and flood.
And you're raising the grade above that line a little bit, and you're not touching the grade below that.
Correct, we're not touching any of we're not changing the elevation in the floodway. We are taking from like where the stage is here up to the back here. We're raising that about 4 feet. We're actually going to do
Well, I just want to say I'm supportive, and I hope that this body is very confusing what we're reviewing, that we can plant a lot of seeds for you, and kind of, as you move forward, I share some of mine, and we'll articulate this, I guess, that everybody's taught. But I think it's an opportunity for a bunch of different perspectives to be invited into this project to make it better, hopefully.
I appreciate that. You know, this is a unique project. As I'm the civil engineer who's like, all right, here's the checklist. Let's go down here. And there's just, wow. I guess technically by building code, these shipping containers are a building. It's a shipping container. I mean, it changes colors or it has a mural on it. There's not a lot of what we're typically bringing to you. It's not the norm. So I really appreciate the diversity of just backgrounds and comments and suggestions to kind of help. You know, what we're looking to do here is something that is a great way. I saw. I was at a town hall meeting last night, and Maggie Ullman was speaking over in East Asheville, and she was like, these areas along the river, we want to build back with more resilience. And so that's really what I kind of see this project as, something that allows us to come back in and something that's very Asheville and very creative and find a way to repurpose and revitalize an area, but do it in a respectful way that is sensitive to what just happened and acknowledges the fact that it'll happen again in the future at some level. So I
Chris.
appreciate your comments and feedback.
Sorry, I have a quick question, and maybe this was better for Red House, but is there a reason? I'm just thinking about what Michael said earlier. I mean, the approach to this thing is pretty bad. It's just really bad, you know, and I understand why. But I think I see an opportunity to make it a little bit better. So the main gate opens into this sort of, you know, yard, right? And you're going to have, right, but is there a reason why the main gate can't open to the street?
Turn it 90 degrees.
That's a great question. Yeah, and well, the 45 degree is it's our this fun sewer line that we don't see out there. So we've got an easement there, which really strategically we're trying to stay these shipping containers on either side. We're trying to stay on either side of that, and then we've kind of got this pinched in with the right of way here. I do hear, and I feel like there is something that we can think about. You know, in a perfect world, everything slides over here, and I like what Michael made reference to, and Ricardo, what you're referring to, and the fact that there's kind of this entry as you're coming in. Logistically, it starts pushing all of the kind of entryway infrastructure further back into the project. We're pinched a little bit in here, but something.
Yeah, no, like I said, I know why it's awful, because you have this narrow approach, and you've got your stage layout, and I see functionally how this thing is working, so it makes sense. But I would definitely I would definitely encourage you to think about it, because that, that fence that needs to be there, right, that can still be a feature of the entry, right? So if the gate turns 90 degrees, then it can have this sort of arm out. And that arm isn't really doing anything. It's still a fence, it's still a barrier for the public. But it becomes, architecturally, it becomes something that gathers people and funnels people in and welcomes people. Because right now, the main gate is just, you're going through between, bathrooms and storage. So it's not like it's an activated, entryway. It's just a funnel. And it's a funnel that you have to get off the street, go into this driveway, and then turn left and go through. So there's no activation there. So I would just encourage you guys to think about how to maybe turn that and engage, incorporate that fence, and make that an element that becomes
I like that. I appreciate the input. The other thing to just throw out there that as you're talking, I'm also thinking is, in theory, one of the reasons, just logistically, as the stage is coming in, you come down Mulvaney, you turn in here, and it creates this back area to come back out. So we've got our formal driveway on the Thompson Street here, but that's only utilized during that setup. It may be that instead of, where I'm showing this all as gravel, if this becomes more of a green, passive, some other way that creates a sense of arrival more than what appears to be depicted here as a gravel area.
Yeah, you gotta work on that.
Yeah. Good deal.
That's my opinion.
Thank you.
We probably need to do public comment.
Yeah, thank you, Chris.
Absolutely.
I just want to say before I hear public comment, we know there's noise concerns, but we don't generally talk about the noise issues.
That's not under our purview.
As a design issue, so.
We don't have any musicians. Well, probably.
I can be on stuff.
Okay, so we'll open up for public comment at 2:03 p.m.
And yeah, Chair is going to recommend that we do the standard rules for 3 minutes per person or 10 minutes for a group of 3 or more people.
Okay.
So that requires people to cede their time to the presenter.
Okay. Please approach the mic and state your name.
I'm Peter Sprague. I'm the president of Three Mountaineers. We were attracted on Simpson Street since the mid-1950s. We have not been exemplary for the last 8 have degraded from that, and so due to a fire and a collapse of the building. So we've been waiting for about 30 years, I guess, for something to happen in the neighborhood that is different. And I guess after the flood in 2004, and then after this most recent event, we're looking for a spark, a group or a person or a activity that would bring imagination, creativity, and wherewithal and energy that's contagious and would be a rebirth or a flourishing of the old commune industrial development. And we believe that this project serves that. And we also believe that it's a call from the Wilma-Dykeman Riverway, that this is an activity that would certainly be put funding on by Ms. Dykeman and her efforts. So we ask and encourage that you approve this project, and we look forward to being a neighbor there and hopefully participate in the revival. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jenkins. I inherited the property at 240 Swananoa River Road. It had been there 65 years, 4 long-time tenants, and everything's gone. And I've done everything I could to just give it some life, because that area has terrible crime. And I spent a lot of money on that parking lot, and I really hope, something works out, but you please check with me if you want to use that parking lot, because it costs a lot of money, and that's all I have left. And Bill is an excellent neighbor. His dad and my dad built down there in the late 50s, and we both lost everything. Our generation had to face this. But I'm just concerned about what might happen, because I know from previous experience, I spent like $70,000 on that land, and in 2 weeks' time, homeless people climbed up. There is a tree. That tree has been through all the floods. That was there when that land was cleared. And my dad worked all his life for those tenants in there. 4 long-time tenants. 1 46 years, 2 plumbers, Bartlett Construction, and it's like losing family. So I really hope that people can work together down there, because the crime is bad. And 2 weeks after I put a new roof on that building, homeless people climbed up that tree, set a little fire, and a circle of beer cans the next day. So I had to call the roofer again. So I do care about the property, but I would like, if you want to lease some parking spaces, let me know. But I really care what happens down there. And I remember 3 mountain years. I'm glad this guy's here. But thank you. Thank you.
Is there any other public comment? We are going to public comment at 2:08 p.m.
I'll start off by saying I don't think the drawings are comprehensive enough to be approved.
That's pretty much what, so I'm happy to provide the feedback we've provided. Based on what I've heard, well, it's gonna be different, it's gonna be different, and that's probably gonna be different. And yeah, we're gonna paint them, and we're gonna paint them different than what they're shown, and it's gonna have a different canopy than what's shown, and it's gonna be this, and yeah, we probably, so I know Chris knows this, but for the public, a lot of times when we get an application, we will work really hard when we understand that we're kind of one of the required stops on approval. I'm not getting the sense that since it's mandatory review, voluntary compliance, I'm happy to review it, when you've got know more about what you're doing, I guess. But right now, I just don't feel like I can approve a guess on what's going forward.
Yeah. I think
I would ask that the applicant request a continuance myself.
that could be one option, and if they wanted an up or down vote, they might have to, they could request that too.
Yeah, and they don't, since it doesn't matter, we can just say, I don't have enough, sorry. So that's kind of where I'm at, and I don't know.
Yeah, again, if we're just giving feedback, voting, then I hope everybody else shares their feedback as well. We've only heard from a few of us so far.
I'm generally supportive of the strategies, I'll say it that way, the strategies that I'm seeing. I think there's refinements that could be made. You've gotten some feedback on, a sense of arrival, a flow through the site, creating a landscaping character. I really think that paving and wayfinding with landscaping and paving is going to be kind of crucial to space making in this. I don't think that, I think the stage seating area on one side, kind of grass on the other, it hasn't found space for me yet. Those will be disjointed. I think there's some things like that could make the project better. And I know that you're just kind of moving into the project and working on it. So I'm generally in support of it. I don't have enough information right now to say, yes, if you build exactly this, then it's approved. That's normally what we do. So is there, I'm sorry.
People haven't spoke yet.
I'll just say that generally, and come up with a little bit different picture, not the design element, but in the spirit of the activation of the site and things that this lady said, I know Peter, I've spent a lot of time looking at the Three Mountaineers site. I like the connectivity, and again, the Greenway connecting back to the village and ideally through the village and into the river system does create a mixed modal piece that would be awesome. But I like it and I support it. I think it does have a temporary piece to it given the floodway encroachment. And if you're building a permanent stage and permanent bathrooms, it's a lot of work for a long time for what is 5,000 seats? Is that the total capacity? Again, probably out of my lane a little bit from a DRC standpoint, but I support the project.
I mean, I'll say a lot, I'll give a lot of credit for being one of the first groups to bring a new development project to the floodplain that activates it. There's been a lot of projects that have, had to rebuild, and that was owners of existing structures or properties, and, they maybe had to, but this is a new activation, new use. So I commend the courage that it takes to do something like this, and the risk that is involved in taking this step. So I support it. I do think there's some gaps in kind of the aesthetic of it and understanding that, but big picture, I like the approach. I think the biggest questions are going to get, and probably already have gotten them, are around parking and then, evacuation. I didn't really understand the whole temporary mobile structures, but they're bolted down, and then, I will say, one of Robert's comments about we will move some structures if it's a 2004 flood and more structures if it's a 2024 flood. And that's only understood in hindsight. You can't anticipate what type of flood it's gonna be. So I would encourage you to have the evacuation plan and be comfortable evacuating 9 out of 10 times and finding out that it wasn't necessary. One time it's going to be necessary, 9 times it's not going to be necessary, and that's just how we have to operate in the floodplain. So I think you're going to get a lot of questions around that, being kind of the first group that doesn't do development in the floodplain. The better off you are at answering that question and showing them that evacuation plan and making other people comfortable that you're prepared for it practically, really. You're going to be in a better position for it. Thank you.
I am also in support of the concept. I have the same concerns as everybody else about tree cover. It's one of my big concerns. So I would also like to see even the trees that aren't required included in the design. And in terms of the emergency evacuation or whatever of the temporary buildings, I don't know if I missed it, but I'm not sure anybody talked about where they would be put and if that would be on site or if they would be moved someplace else, and if that's even part of the design or if that's something totally separate.
use of a property so close to the river and the greenway, and I think we saw some similar projects fail in Helene, but I think if designed properly, this is the best use of property so close to, or an example of a better use for property so close to the river. And so I'd like to see it succeed and move forward. But I do think the design seems a little underdeveloped for us to make a decision today. So I would recommend to continue if that applicant is open to it. And I also just would encourage to involve a landscape architect, because I think this is such a cool site and has so much potential for that type of design. So I think we need to find out if the applicant is okay with continuing.
Yes.
Yeah, and thank you. These are all wonderful comments. I appreciate the input and guidance. I'd ask a little bit of a procedural question to Will in regards to, we made a level 1 submittal, which then naturally brought us here. We were also, so we've been running like 3 different kind of submittals that are going concurrently, with the idea that this was the week of gathering additional external information from you guys, from the technical review committee on the right-of-way, so that we were prepared to make a resubmittal back in with our level 1 that can kind of incorporate everything to move this forward. Completely agree and appreciate the desire for this board to see the refined and revised plan that comes out of these comments, TRC comments, and the level 1 comments.
Are you entitled? Have you hit entitlement yet?
So we are staff level.
So it's entitled. It's entitled.
So it's a staff
Useful,
level
right?
problem.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm making sure I understand.
Right, and that's actually where I'm kind of laying context to understand and ask Will, in terms of timing and procedure. As we make a resubmittal on level 1, the idea of this board seeing it again at another meeting, no issue at all. Just trying to understand logistically. What do we need to have from this board to be able to issue out the level 1 approvals?
So yeah, for the zoning to be approved for that level 1 project, you would have to have either approval or denial from the DRC. So having it continued and not having it resolved would be a step that needs to be resolved, that level 1 zoning approval. So we can certainly continue you to the next meeting, and you could submit plans directly that address these comments and concerns. It wouldn't necessarily have to be tied to level 1 resubmission and the timing of that, or you could do it concurrently, depending on how it worked best for you.
And just to understand the full gamut. Alternatively,
You say no.
You can say no. We still move forward,
keep going, and then you can come back.
I respectfully bring it back for you guys to see it. So, me being the permitting engineer, I'm trying to navigate what the best means to move forward is. Like I said,
we're not trying to take you up.
I know you're not, and that's why I'm asking. That's why I'm being.
Can I ask a quick question?
I'm sure you
Wait,
can.
please state your name.
Sorry, we're recording and it's kind of hard to.
That's okay. Hi, Mary Jackson, my house. I just have a quick question about, this is a little bit of a convoluted approval because essentially our level 1 is for temporary use instead of permanent use. And so we provided some of the images of what the permanent state is going to look like, the containers, the future of the containers, what they're going to look like. But essentially, if the level 1 is for temporary use and temporary structures, does that weigh into whether or not you would be willing to not continue it?
Or,
does that make sense?
That's a great point. Or is there a scenario where
Let's do this.
the permanent
Let's do this.
requirement
Let's do this. We can vote on the temporary use of the thing today. And then we can, when you get ready to apply for your permanent, it's reviewed as a new submittal, a revision to the existing site.
Because then that way we have time to not only incorporate all of your comments, but actually see in real time how the site works during that first year, you know, as things are getting placed and all of that. And so I think it is a great opportunity.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I think that goes back to one of my first questions, what the heck am I reviewing?
Right, yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, I think that could work if it's a
I'm so
condition.
confused, like trees, like,
Well, I think that goes back.
We're gonna do a condition. So if I make a motion that we approve the temporary use of the site as presented, that one of the conditions is that they provide a full landscape plan for addressing some of the comments that we've made to staff for approval.
so is everybody leaning that way too? Keeping the project moving ahead by giving them an affirmative with other conditions?
I feel good about that.
I do too.
Okay, we're not trying to jam you up, so.
Okay.
I'm certainly not. Okay, we ready?
Mhm.
All right. I'd like to make a motion that we approve. Can you pull up the?
Make sure the word temporary is strong.
That's good. I move to recommend approval of the Big Picture Music Venue located at 155 Thompson Street. Project is presented based on the site plans, elevations, and the materials submitted and the discussions heard during this review. We find that the project serves as an improvement of the site from post-storm conditions, and our approval is subject to the following conditions. One, that our understanding is that this is for a temporary use with temporary buildings, that the applicant will provide a revised set of plans, site plans, elevations, and materials for the permanent design for the project, and that we do second that the applicant provide an updated landscape plan, providing the full additional landscaping as discussed in the meeting. Any other conditions for the temporary? The third, that the applicant review the arrival and entry off of Thompson Street, and do what now?
Lighting,
And that the applicant review
address lighting, there's no mention of lighting, so it needs to be somewhere.
a representative lighting plan for the project, even for the temporary use. So moved.
Second.
I'll second.
The motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion and a second and approved. Thank you. We have one other order of business. Does anybody need a break or to?
Dana?
Do it.
Yeah.
Let's just do it.
Yeah.
Dana's like, no breaks.
Just that, but I'm going to have someone who's here who needs to catch a flight and get us going. Thank you.
I think it's a couple over, updated, and then the, gotcha.
I will, good afternoon, committee members. My name is Karen Frankel, downtown planning volunteer, planning and urban design department. Here on behalf of staff, as we route a proposal for an investment in public space, a sign which is being reviewed on a, in terms of what's technically required and feasible by staff, but we are, we created a process for this and other similar types of investments where we are asking for a positive recommendation from you all as our design experts and representatives of the public in order for staff to support this project moving forward through our process. So you all, most of you all who were on the board saw a proposal in July,
Discussions about this proposed gateway signage feature actually began in 2023. They were initiated by Wall Street merchants, and so the city and Explore Asheville was engaged after that, and the city has been working through this process to support gateway features, and Explore Asheville has been leading that effort and leading the design. So we gave feedback in July and asked this group to come back, and they are back with updated designs, and I'm going to hand it over.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for holding on the break. I will be very brief because we are on a time constraint. So many of you got the background. Well, first, let's say Kimberly Pereira with Explore Asheville, Destination Project Manager in the Partnership and Destination Management Department. I manage numerous projects and programs. Wayfinding is one of them. So this falls under our wayfinding program. We have about an array of 400 signs throughout the county that we manage. They help enhance the navigational experience for visitors and residents, while also fostering a sense of place and identity. So we group these signs into 3 types. Wayfinding, those include pedestrian and vehicular signs, informational kiosks, and place-making elements. So this is one of the first place-making elements that we've been working through. The other one, the first one we have was with the rad, so the giant gear that's down there is considered one of our gateway place-making elements. Just to kind of give you an idea. I'm not going to get into the timeline because Dana already did it. And we have a guest here with us. I asked Merge to join. They are our designers for our wayfinding program. And they are going to go over this updated design for you.
Thank you. My name is Glenn Swantek, principal at Merge. And 15 years ago, we did the wayfinding program for Asheville. And like Kimberly said, we're working with the Wall Street Association to come up with a gateway. How does this advance? There we go. Slowly. So we've gone through a number of iterations of this, and we've kind of narrowed it down to what we want to do now. And just briefly, the design inspiration comes from the signage, like at Grove Arcade, and it's reflective of that more of that Art Deco feeling of like the Flatiron Building. So that's where the typeface comes from. The signage is dimensional. It will have dimension, but the key feature of it is the local artist integration into the design, where we would have a local artist or blacksmith do this interpretation of a ginkgo leaf going up the pole. So it's an artistic element as well as a gateway. There's 2 locations. One is at the pedestrian, I can probably show you the renderings, it kind of shows it a little bit better. The first location is looking down Wall Street from Battery Park. Is that Battery Park? Yeah. But looking down that way on the side of the Flatiron Hotel there. It's an overhead structure. We've worked with the city about clearances, and we'll make sure that there's for emergency services, for fire trucks, that it has the height and the clearance. We're trying to keep it as as far away from the roadway as possible. If you've ever been down Wall Street, you know that is a tight turn there that we will have to, we'll work through and make sure that that's all positioned properly, not only from a visible standpoint, but also from a structural standpoint as well. The second area is at the parking garage stairwell, next to the parking garage. This is an opportunity for an entrance down onto Wall Street again, which is probably an underused area to get down onto Wall Street. And we're just doing this, repeating the same design, but flipping it the other way, and then having the artistic element underneath. The pole the pole is basically the light poles that are, the structure of the pole and the base will mimic what is in place currently there on Wall Street.
And the colors are similar, correct?
The colors are,
Similar to the poles that are there.
yes, the color of the pole will be the same as what's out there, and the color scheme of the sign follows the Explore Asheville color scheme. They have, as it is an extension of the wayfinding program, Explore Asheville has color guidance on all of the signs, so we're following that guidance on the panel, the Wall Street panel.
So the color of the rendering is a little lighter than, because you said you're going to match, if you go to the 8.2 drawing down. Yeah, keep further. There you go. So it's going to be the same color as the pole?
It'll match. It's going to be, we're going to use the same pole product.
Thank you.
The decorative base.
Is there a reason why they have to both be identical?
For consistency, for, just making sure that, well, the artistic element does not, but we feel like that the sign portion should be, because that in turn becomes Wall Street's image, right? You want to make it consistent. But the artistic element could be, and I should say, we're just providing a concept. We're leaving it up to the artist to create we're giving them parameters of how high it should be, how high up, make sure the clearance is okay. But the artist would then come up with whatever they want. We're giving them freedom to be creative.
Okay.
I think the last version you were using either the buildings for both signs or one of them?
I'm sorry?
You were coming off the building structures?
No, they're all independent of the buildings.
No, I mean previously, we reviewed it.
Oh, yeah, we changed that. Yeah, we had one option at the stairwell where we were coming off the building, but we thought that could be potentially problematic. There is a little pad of dirt and grass there that we would mount the pole into, and then it would come up as a separate item.
Do you think that the sign has, like the flag with the lettering, has to be same green as well?
This rendering is showing it a little bit, it's a little bit deceiving. It's not the same green. The green of the pole is a little bit darker, and we're matching the pole color and the ironwork, or the ironwork up to the poles, but the street sign will follow the color scheme of Asheville's color scheme, which is their own EMS colors. It's not exactly the same. It's close, but it's not exactly the same.
I'll say this, I wasn't here for the previous version, but I was able to look at the documents and see the previous version. Aesthetically, to me, this one was great. The only concern I would have is, I'm wondering if you could address it, is the color scheme and the shape of it feels a lot like a street sign. So an actual street sign. So if you could maybe scroll down to the right here. So over to the left, it is a street sign, and it shows where to go on that street. Which maybe is okay with this particular area, but on the pedestrian walkway, if I'm reading that as someone that's visiting, I might think that is telling me that Battery Park is going this way. So is there a way to make that a little less like a street sign, maybe in size or in color?
Well, yeah, the size of it is much larger than a street sign, and street signs have it's a totally different typeface as well, and it's going to have dimension to it. It's not reflective like a street sign, so I don't think that there will be a lot of confusion about that. But however, we could look at the green and maybe look at, because color is easy for us to change, right? We can look at that and see if maybe that's an option.
Yeah.
On the lines of what you're talking about, we were actually talking the same thing. mean, if you could even walk under that, I know it's it might be a cost thing, but, so it feels more like a gateway, like you're walking through and under versus what you're saying. Joe, it's, where it could be confusing. And it is, you might be right, the scale of it might just be such that it doesn't matter, but that was my first thought too.
It is.
Like, is it going to confuse people that don't know the town? Like, wow,
Just
Yeah,
feedback.
it is unique.
Yeah,
And
just
when I was
feedback.
in college, you were commenting on, like, that was a pedestrian entry, and the other one is, well, you're trying, the
They're both
goal is
pedestrian.
to make them encourage pedestrian.
Yes.
And so I think maybe, like you said, the colors matching the street sign or matching the particular street signs, it might be nice to differentiate the color. And I think it would be really cool if it matched the iron. Like, I would love to see the sign be the same as the iron and then have the letters be gold. I think that would look great, but I'm sure there's a million ways you could look at it. But I do think separating it maybe from our street signage would be.
Yeah, I get what you're saying about the typeface, but I think that's a fairly refined palette on the design. I think we're looking at it a little bit. So first of all, I think it looks a lot better.
I do too.
I like it better.
Yeah.
I think you're on the right track, and I think some minor refinements, but I'm going to be moving forward with that.
I think
You're moving.
everybody's looking at me. So I missed the July meeting, and I apologize. I would have had some I would have been a foil to some of the comments that were shared. I thought your previous version was more unique. I know that the word cutesy was used. I know who used it, and maybe there's something to be said about that. I know that there was a comment about the readability from both sides. I'm not sure that I necessarily agree that it needs to be readable from both sides, because once you're on Wall Street, you're on Wall Street. Do you need to be told you're on Wall Street, right? It's a gateway. If the intent is for this to be a gateway, then it should be readable from the outside. With that said, with either option, you can, I'll go back to the previous option where it's just sort of, metal, font, letters floating. There's something you could do with that, I'm thinking maybe like the ginkgo leaves and things like that, where you can blend the letters, or you can use a font that's stylized in a way where when you look at it from the front, you can see it, you can read it, and then when you look at it from the back, it just sort of blends into a texture. So I think that's something that can be done in a three-dimensional way. It's also something that you can do by combining colors. In this case, you have the gold, you have the green, you have the white. So we already know that there's the openness to use color, different colors, as opposed to like the first option where it was just one color. That can also work with one color. So to me, this is just there would be a spatial thing, right? And also a stylistic approach to the font in the way that it's read backwards and forwards. But with that said, I agree. I think it needs to look less like a street sign and more like a monument almost, right? Which I think your previous iteration was more successful at. This is obviously trying to look like a street sign. I don't think it should do that. In your previous option, you had basically two scales and two sort of approaches, because you had all the way across where it was, for the pedestrian, for the stair one, it was anchored on both ends, and then the other one is just anchored on one end. And there's a change in scale, which I think you're not showing in your new one. Both of those signs are the same size. And I think that's a miss. Because once you're at the stair, I don't think you need to go any higher than, say, 10 feet. For the one over the road, to me, it feels a little bit low, especially given that there isn't a sidewalk there. There isn't a curb. Maybe there's a sidewalk. Yeah, there isn't a curb. So, you know, a box truck, a city bus, a tour bus, anything like that might come under it. And you got to think about, you know, what the road is doing. So the vehicle might actually shift around a little bit and, you know, shoulder it up a little bit. So definitely pay attention to that. But I would suggest with the new design to incorporate that sort of spatial, you know, ethereal nature of the ginkgo section into the sign itself.
Yeah,
there's something really heavy and solid about that, which to me clashes a lot with the lacework.
So it's contradicting what we heard before, because the reason why it does look like a street sign is because we were told that the criteria was to see it from both sides.
Again, I wasn't.
I know, that's fine. No. I just want to make sure we have a clear direction now, because if we do open it up a little bit and maybe bring some of that structural element behind the sign or incorporate it into it a little bit, so it doesn't feel like a street sign. And I kind of agree with you guys that it does feel like a street sign. And we can work on getting it to feel less like that.
I think.
But do we all think that it needs to be read from just one side, because it is like a gateway? Typically, you don't read gateways from two sides.
No, it was just the previous design. There were a number of things with the previous design. I think that I agree that you can work on making this not look like a street sign in ways that you can use color, you can use form, you can incorporate the sculptural element of the ginkgo into the lettering in a way that would do that. So I don't know that we said it. Did we say it? Well, I don't know. Nobody else is here. I can't remember now if we said it had to be readable from both sides. It was confusing to read it backwards from the other side.
There was a comment the staff report about that.
Okay, there's probably me, and it was probably more because you were reading it backwards from the other side, and it just looked weird. In the way that one was going to be, because I do use Wall Street to walk up and down it all the time, and I do use those stairs, so looking up at backwards text would always make me cross-eyed more than I am. That said, I don't know that I don't know that we're going to give you, the idea is not to give you conflicting directions. We're just going to fight about it, and I'm going to win.
So to your point, right? There is a way to incorporate, and like I was saying, you can just imagine, take out the panel, right? Just have the words, and let the ginkgo flow behind.
And then
that solves your street sign.
I think that solves the street sign problem, and that solves the readability problem.
Exactly.
I'm not trying to read it through the truth.
It's what we did in the previous iteration, basically incorporating the word in with those sculptural element, right? And we can look at that and adjust it.
Yeah, I
can agree with that.
You just got that purpose.
Dang it.
I think it's something as simple as that, just because suddenly you've removed that heaviness of the plaque, right? And now it's just all lacework, and it's more special, and it's going to be.
It feels like a landmark.
Yeah, exactly.
Any other comments? Go ahead, Mark.
Well, I don't I'm going to stay on the whole sign thing, take a step back, and I talk about what your goal is to pull people down Wall Street. You know, yeah, sign is one way to do it, but there's so many different ways you can pull people down that street. And I'm looking on Google Earth, and I'm walking by next to the Flatiron, looking at where Mayfield's used to be. It's dead. That stair going down to the courtyard. That's the first thing you see when you walk by. It's like there's nothing there. And then you see the financial services building next to that, and then you see the tables and awnings in front of Early Grove. And I know they want to be near the front door, but God, it'd be so great if that table shifted towards us in this view. So as you're walking by, you actually see sidewalk dining. So why do you want to go down Wall Street? Well, there's a sign that says Wall Street. Does that make me want to go down there? I don't know. So what you want to do is I'm a vibe guy. So when I'm wandering around the city and figuring out where to go, it's like, that looks cool down there. And so I'm looking for energy. So maybe other than signage, look at ways to energize that little knuckle there I know the Flatiron spot is an honored busker station, but is there some other activity? I can't think of any right now. Hot dog vendor, I don't know. Just somebody that could like park right at that corner there and energize that. I mean, we're looking at a van in front of a financial services building. It's like, why would I walk down that street? And then same thing on the other end is you're walking down and you're looking at right now at a shutter business, and I know that's hopefully not going to be there forever, but there's kind of a courtyard there when you land down on the stair, and there's a dead space where the climbing wall used to be, and there's a shuttered restaurant, but there's a plaza there. It's like if there was some sort of energy in that plaza that like you just wanted to go check it out, and I don't know what that is. Again, is it a city scheduled activity? Is it some sort of structure? Is it a kiosk with info? But I think there's opportunity. Can you scroll down to the view looking down like that? Like, what's going to make me want to go down those stairs and pull me down there? And yeah, sunlight to it, but what else? And there's a whole wall that has some old murals or graphics on that. Pop those a little bit more, maybe. Talk to the owner of that building, and maybe there's a way to freshen up the graphics there on the parking garage side. Is there something you can do on that building to like make somebody want to go down the steps a little bit farther and say, what the heck's down there? So like as you're doing this, I think it's great. I love Wall Street. I wish it had more energy, but is this actually creating more energy? Probably not. Is it wayfinding? Yes. But so dig a little bit deeper, and maybe there's some other tools in the toolbox to get people to go down the steps and turn that corner.
Yeah, I agree with all of those comments. Just to relate something to Asheville, when we did the wayfinding system originally, the River Arts District was just ours, basically, and we put up the signs and gave importance so that that was the first step. And I think that's what we're trying to do here. So that people started to show up in the River Arts District, and everyone down there was like, what do we do? They had coffee shops, and now there's for a reason, and you saw what happened. So I think we're giving it importance by creating a landmark, and then hopefully all of those other things will come after. And hopefully that's where we're trying to get to. But I agree with you.
Well, I would think Joe obviously would be on board with, like, how long will it remain vacant? I don't know, but like, put something there, like placeholder, or hide the sign a little bit. I mean, when you walk down, this was on Google Earth, and what I'm seeing is like for lease, like a shuttered restaurant with for lease sign. So just stuff like that. Again, I'm a guy that like, when I'm looking around for streets to walk down, I'm not looking at signs, I'm looking at like, what's down there?
Mm-hmm. Any other comments from us before we move to public comment?
I feel like I need to say that I have for a long time wanted to see a merry-go-round put in that little space where the climbing wall used to be. I think it would be great. It would be fun, it would make noise, people could pay to ride on it. And it could also be an information kiosk at the same spot. I did it for a long time, so I felt like maybe I need to say it right now.
Thank you, Sue. That is exactly why we selected you from downtown design. That's perfect.
We're not process. If you want to buy one.
I looked into it. They're not that expensive. I can send you some links.
Your second career. Any other comments for the applicant from the public comment? Very good. Thank you much. What time is it? It is 2:51. I'll open the floor for public comment. Yes, ma'am. Oh, sorry. Yeah, please. State your name.
Hey, William Disson, Marketplace Restaurant. Long time no see. Thanks for being back here today and listening to us through. This is a project I've been working on for over 12 years. Happy to finally have the city listen to us and have some support from folks like Explore Asheville. So excited about the progress we're making. My restaurant, Marketplace, has been in downtown Asheville for 46 years. I've owned it over 16. Wall Street is a very special place to me. I agree with the comments you all made about it is a special place. We need to create some more placemaking. We need to make it a way that we can draw people down the street. I was holding back my comment when you mentioned about what can you do to make it feel special. This is kind of the first procedure, the first process to create some placemaking. I have meetings with Downtown Association, some other stakeholders here shortly. We're working on string lighting for the whole street, string lighting over the park that the city owns, string lighting on the stairs. Joe Becker is actually funding the stairs to get repainted. They're coming down from Battery Park. We are working on bringing it back. Unfortunately, post-COVID, Wall Street became a thoroughfare from a lot of the like halfway homes and whatnot for folks to come down and make their way through downtown. And it's been kind of an eyesore, and it's something I've been working very hard and diligently to clean up. And I think one of the first steps is to address placemaking and to draw some attention there. We are working hard to bring in lighting, even some other flags and things to help create more of an ambiance and a vibe on the street. We're hopeful to get this project finalized, move forward, and try to have it executed and installed hopefully before the spring tour season. So we definitely love your all support. Thank you.
What are the challenges for string lights?
Sorry.
We don't know.
No, I'm just curious.
Don't engage in.
Sorry, no. Never mind.
I honestly can.
Yep. Thank you all.
Quickly.
I'll be very quick. Dana Frankel, planning urban design. Our lighting ordinance is very restrictive and complicated. That said, the city is working on a one-page guide right now, should be ready next week, that kind of clarifies what is allowed, which in most cases, very low luminosity lighting is allowed. And we want to be able to support requests of this nature if appropriate, if it meets the spirit of the ordinance. And so we're going to be directing people through the temporary activation program, the application process that way, so we can get appropriate city eyes on it. So we have already created a way to be able to that type of use in an environment where the lighting ordinance is really could use an update.
Thank you.
Not that hard.
Maybe you had a comment.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Heck. I'm representing the Merchants of Downtown Asheville. I own a business on Wall Street that's been there since 1998. I bought it in 2010, and I also own the property. I want to just say that I really support this. They've been working really hard, which I appreciate the design team, Explore, and William. I like this version way better than what was presented last time. And at our meeting with Explore, it was unanimous, which almost never can you get Wall Street businesses to unanimously agree on anything. We're extremely attached to the ginkgos being a part of the design. It would be nice to maybe see an archway over the stairs and then have the other way, at the other end of the street. I agree with softening the edges of the street's line 5. And just to your point, Michael, we're working really hard on getting that lighting, but there are some barriers with the needs of the city. I've asked on the behalf of merchants of downtown Asheville to try and have a temporary use of the old Climax space so that we can use the interior and the courtyard to activate that space and encourage more use there, and hopefully even help them find a good tenant for the Climax space because it's been vacant for a while, and it would be nice to have that opened up. And it would give our organization and our street the opportunity to do events that aren't only affected by weather. So we've done things last year that were street-based, and we're lucky to have good weather, but we can't count on that all the time. So I think there's a couple of things they're working on with getting the electricity on in that building and potentially letting us use it. But I totally agree, we would like to have a very European feeling area, and this is the first step to us really solidifying the character and the identity of our neighborhood. And so we'd like to take this first step and then continue on with, you know, I gained all kinds of photos in Europe this summer as inspiration to really make Wall Street something that we can all be proud of and invite people. And we did have a vending cart there with guys with little sweaters and everything for a while, if you remember. We had little hats and kid sweaters, and it'd be great to have something like that here again, but this would be the first step in getting us moving in that direction. So,
Thank you. Any other public comment? Please. Just please state your name.
Hello, I'm Taryn Ward. I own The Studio, a small event venue, and also Delaterra Beauty, which is also on Wall Street. We do bridal hair and makeup, and currently hoping to get into the Laughing Seed building because we've outgrown the current venue. But I will say that this is a start for us as far as waymaking, but there is a lot of work that needs to be done. I've been on Wall Street since 2018, and pre-COVID, our street traffic was insane, and ever since, it's just been dwindling down. I know we had talked about this at MODA, but this, if we can't get the lights approved, at least if we could do something fun and colorful down Wall Street, that would be amazing to do, at least until we can get the light thing situated. And I know this has nothing to do with y'all, but you work for the city. The fire lane in front of my building is a big hindrance because I'm a planner and I plan festivals and been on all sorts of committees, and Wall Street is literally the perfect street ever for festivals, but because of that fire lane that was not always there, we can't really do anything from the public service building down to Laughing Seed, and that is our entryway for that stairwell. So having, I don't know who we need to talk to about moving it back to where it was or down the street, something. No, the watch place does not use the back entrance at all. They use Spicer and Green in the front, and they have their own parking lot. So for us to not be able to activate the space directly in front of our building for Laughing Seed or the public service kind of takes away a lot of the outdoor activities that we can do. Even when we shut down the street last year for Miracle on Wall Street, we couldn't have any vendors in front of the straightest part of the street. Everything else curves along, and so it's very hard to stack vendors. And on top of that, ever since COVID, the Early Girl and all of the restaurants there have that street access for their seating. And so this is the start, so having this being pushed forward is great for the waymaking, but there's going to be way more design stuff to come forward to get that street. I mean, we lost 4 restaurants in 1 year on Wall Street. So it's been rough. So we're ready to get this approved and get this rolling so that we can bring more life and fun and hopefully festivals to our street.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Wonderful. I will close public comment. comment at 3 o'clock. So this is not a formal recommendation. We don't have to do approval. We've just made our comments.
Yeah.
So staff has those. Yes, Dana?
We actually would like a formal.
Do you?
You
Okay.
do want a
Thanks,
formal
sorry.
recommendation? Okay. It's just, again, so this is not a review that requires a full motion, but I'm pretty comfortable making a motion and then we can vote on it. It's a non-binding resolution, but that can go in the staff minutes, okay? Yes, go
I got
ahead.
just one question for the tenants on Wall Street that are here and the owners. Are y'all happy with the design of the sign? Do y'all like it?
I actually would agree with the second sign that's on the stairwell. If the ginkgo tree is very important to Wall Street because it is a very uncommon tree for that street, I would love to see the arbor effect of two ginkgo trees intertwining together to create one arbor with the lettering of Wall Street. Because I agree with it does look like a street sign and it does need to have something that's more attractive to be like, ooh, I want to go down that. And if Wall Street as a community, if we're going to invest money in the murals on the wall and redoing the stairs and the twinkle lights, I think that all should be cohesive in the idea.
I think it just, you're going to make a comment.
No, I was just going to say that we can, we'll just add that in as a potential to discuss with the merchants. So I'd like to make a motion, again, this would be a non-binding resolution of the Design Review Committee, that we formally approve the signage as presented with the following comments, that the applicant, or not applicant, but that the design for the entry on Wall Street from Battery, the vehicular and pedestrian, that it looked less like a street sign, potentially opening up the sign and incorporating the ginkgo design into that, and that they also investigate more of an arbor approach for the pedestrian entrance on the stairs from Battery Park.
That's the height.
Yeah, the height, that they really think about the height.
The pedestrian height for the stairs versus the vehicular.
And also on the stair, to think about the relationship to the stair, because if you center the sign, it's one thing, but the stair is to one side, so to be mindful of that relationship.
Right. Friendly amendments, so agreed. You can review your second.
I second.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Very good. The motion carries. That is our last order of business. We are adjourned.
Well,